Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to uninstall Ubuntu Linux from your dual boot PC using EasyBCD. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the grub bootloader and we're going to actually remove the installation of Linux off of this machine. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos on Ubuntu or dual booting your PC with Windows 7 and Ubuntu, you'll know that you end up with this grub bootloader that you see in front of you. Now, this is something that comes with Ubuntu and it allows you to dual boot your machine. And what happens is when you turn your computer on, this is the first thing that you'd see if you have a dual boot machine. The first selection up here is Ubuntu, and you can load into it, or you can do nothing, and the default is just to load into Ubuntu after I think it's either 5 or 10 seconds. If you want, you can move the cursor down and go down to Windows 7 and click on that and boot straight into that. So let's first start by booting into Windows 7 and installing EasyBCD 2.1. So let's get started. Okay, I logged into my computer and I brought up my Chrome web browser and I went to download.cnet.com. And if at all possible, I like to download my files from there because they're vetted and they are virus free. So I'm here at download.cnet.com, or it's actually also download.com, and I'm going to go up to the search box up here and I'm going to look up Easy, E-A-S-Y, B-C-D. And I'm going to click on that, and the first selection down here, EasyBCD, I'm going to download that. I'm going to save the file here, and then I'm going to double click on the exe file here. I'm going to run it. Click yes. Okay, safe, trusted, and spyware free. That's why I download from download.com. Anyway, EasyBCD, welcome to the CNET download.com installer. This will download and install your software. Click next step below to continue and start your download. CNET secure download. I'm going to click on next step here, and it's basically giving me a couple of things here. Better web browsing with start now toolbar. I don't really want any toolbars. I just want to continue with this download here. It's a 2 megabyte file, so it's pretty small. Thank you, your download is complete. Your software has been successfully downloaded. Click install now. Okay, I'm just going to walk through this installer here, and it's just basically, clicking, agreeing to the EULA, and it asks here what you want to install. The EasyBCD core, of course, and the desktop shortcut. That's all reasonable. Let's go to next and install. Okay, now down here, if you'll notice, I have the icon right here, which is EasyBCD 2.1. I'm going to finish this up here. Okay, so now I have EasyBCD installed, and I'm going to go down here to the EasyBCD desktop icon and double click on it and launch the program. Now this is what I'm greeted with, EasyBCD 2.1 Community Edition. Now the only reason I'm using EasyBCD is to remove the grub bootloader. Because if you remove Linux but not the grub bootloader, it's always going to be popping up when you turn on your machine. And the purpose of this video is just to remove Linux off of the machine entirely and just have it boot straight into Windows when you turn your computer on every time. So you have a couple of options here on the left-hand side, and we want to go to the second from the bottom or the sixth one down, which is BCD deployment. I'm going to click on that. And I just want to concern myself here with the lower portion of it, where it says MBR configuration options. You have two selections here. It says install the Windows Vista /7 bootloader to the MBR, or install the Windows XP bootloader to the MBR. Now obviously in my situation here I'm running Windows 7, and the default selection here is install the Windows Vista /7 bootloader to the MBR. So I want to click on that if it's not clicked on, but like I said, in my situation it's already default clicked on. And I want to click on Write MBR. When I click on this, it's going to get rid of the grub bootloader. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to do its thing here. And MBR written successfully. Okay, so that eliminates the grub bootloader. But we've got a couple more steps in this process. Now, we're going to go over here on the selection Edit Boot Menu, which is the second down, and you see Windows is the only option on here. Now, Ubuntu Linux is still on this machine, and it's still on partition number 3. What we're going to have to do in this step is down here, where it says Timeout Options, we're going to click on Skip the Boot Menu down here. Now, if you don't do this, when you turn on your machine, you're going to load into the Windows bootloader. Instead of the Grub bootloader, you're going to load into the Windows bootloader. And Windows is going to give you the option of booting into Windows 7 only. Even though Ubuntu is still on the machine, it's not recognized on the machine. And really, you don't want to boot into a bootloader. You just want to boot straight into Windows, because we're removing all other operating systems from the machine, and we just want this machine to boot straight into Windows 7. So we're going to click on Skip the Boot Menu here, and it's just going to load straight into your default operating system, which is my only selection here, which is Windows 7. I'm going to click on Save Settings here, and bootloader settings are saved successfully. And now we're pretty much done with EasyBCD. But there's one more step in this process. So we're going to click out of this, and we're going to go to Disk Management. So I'm going to go to my Start menu down here, and I'm going to go over to Computer. I'm going to right-click on Computer here, and I'm going to go down to the Manage selection here. Okay? This is what I'm greeted with, Computer Management. I'm going to go to Disk Management over here. Now here are my 4 partitions. I have a swap space over here for my swap drive for my Ubuntu Linux installation. I have my Ubuntu Linux installation here on my 3rd partition, and then I have my Windows installation here and my Windows recovery partition over here. So what I want to do is I want to eliminate both of these partitions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the swap partition first. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to delete the volume down here. So I'm going to click on that, and I get a window that pops up here that says Disk Management. The selected partition was not created by Windows and might contain data recognized by other operating systems. Do you want to delete this partition? Well, in this situation, I'm getting rid of Ubuntu on this machine, so yes, I want to do that. So I'm going to click on yes, and it deleted the partition. The next thing I'm going to do over here, I'm going to do the same thing with the main Ubuntu installation here. So I'm going to right-click on the partition here, which is my 3rd partition, and I'm going to delete the volume. Now you want to make sure when you're doing all of this that you know what partition Ubuntu resides on. You do not want to do any of this to your Windows installation. So only do this if you know exactly where your Windows installation is, because otherwise you're going to mess up your computer. And as always, have all of your important data backed up. So if you had anything on Ubuntu that you want to keep, make sure you've backed it up before you've done any of this. In my situation, I'm all set. I know that this is my Windows partition and these 2 are my Ubuntu partitions, so I'm confident I can get rid of them. So I'm going to also delete this volume here, and it gives me the same window here. I'm going to click on yes, and now I have unallocated space here. So that's it, pretty much no more Ubuntu. But I'm left with 2 partitions here, one of which ends up as free space and the other one ends up as unallocated space. Now I'm going to right-click on what was my swap drive, and what I can do is I can make it a new simple volume. So if I wanted a new partition there, I could make it into a new partition by clicking on that, or I could delete the partition. What I'm going to do in this situation is I'm going to delete the partition. And it gives me another alert here, and it says this is an extended partition. The partition will become inaccessible if you delete it. Are you sure you want to delete this partition? Yes, I do. So there we go. Partition gone. Now I only have 3 partitions left. And I have unallocated space over here. Now you don't want to leave this as unallocated space because you can't access it with Windows. So basically it's a wasted partition. It's wasted gigabytes on your hard drive. So what you want to do is one of 2 things. You either want to just make this another partition as your D drive or F drive or whatever you want to call it, your Z drive, it doesn't matter. If you want a different partition on your machine, or if you want to just merge this with your Windows partition, your regular C drive partition. So in this situation, what I want to do is I want to merge it with my C drive. So what you want to do is you want to right-click on your Windows, your main Windows installation here, which is in my case the C drive. And what I want to do is extend the volume. Okay, so I'm going to expand it into all that allocated space and use it up. So I'm going to extend the volume, and I'm going to go through this wizard, the extend volume wizard. So I'm going to click on next. Okay, so I'm greeted with another window here. It says select disks. You can use space on one or more disks to extend the volume. Now it pretty much defaults to extending the volume to the maximum, which is basically using all of the unallocated space, which is 223,999 megabytes. So you can alter that if you wanted to, but in this case I'm going to use all of it. So I'm just going to use the default here, and I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to click on finish, and there we go. The second Windows partition now includes all of the unallocated space. So what I've done here is I've reclaimed all of my drive space for my Windows installation, and I've uninstalled Ubuntu Linux. So that's how you remove Ubuntu Linux from your dual boot Windows machine. But just to show you, I'm going to restart this computer and show you that it's going to boot straight into Windows. There's no more grub bootloader, and Ubuntu Linux is gone. So let's click out of this and restart the machine. So there we go. It's booting straight into Windows, no more bootloader. So that pretty much does it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. If you like what you see, please thumbs up and subscribe. So that pretty much does it for now. I will see you guys next time.